Hello everybody, this is Wad, and this is 10 engineering tips you need to know when building. As some of you already know, your skill in engineering is determined by your ability to solve problems. Some people have that gift as a given, but that does not mean you don't have to train yourself. What you are about to see is the result of years of training. Hopefully, this guide will help you understand the steps, techniques, and tips of engineering from my experience. Let us begin. As you can see, the first steps are always building the skeleton of the build. I have personally started with the cockpit of the plane since on this specific build is a bit complex and requires extra planning ahead. Whenever you are engineering, saying I'll cross that bridge when I get there will definitely not work. Always plan ahead for what you are going to do next. Another tip in engineering is to always think outside the box. There will be parts of it that you can use in ways you don't expect. Never overlook an extra piece and think to yourself, that's a useless piece right now, what could I use it for? Just remember that it's not just restricted to one use. Tip number 3 is to never take an idea and discard it, thinking that it's stupid or it doesn't make any sense. For example, many people ridiculed the idea of flight from before, but there came people who tried it anyway and made the airplane. Fourth tip, never be discouraged over failure, because in every failure there is a lesson to be learned. This model is the result of 3 different remodeling processes with many minor redesign details. Having persistence is a key element of this hobby. Every time you face failure, consider it a step forward to your goal. Tip number 5. Never be embarrassed to check other people's work for ideas. Yes, it may sound like copying, but think about it like this. If scientists made discoveries and no one looked at their discoveries and tried the same concept, would we have ever gotten anywhere as a species? Of course, there are limits to that. If you copy piece by piece the creations of others, then that is copying and you should not take part of it. Because that means you just took other people's hard work and stamped your name on it, which is a terrible thing to do. Sixth tip, build a library based on your ideas. A library as in different information or pieces or ideas you randomly had in your head and stored them in a notebook. Always have an idea ready when you are building. Don't let your own mind drift while building, and end up with an undetailed and bland creation without any functionality whatsoever. Tip number 7. There are always different ways to build. Some people like to build from down up, others like to free build, as in build whenever they like. Personally, I always divide my creations to segments. As you can see, I've divided my creation into 4 separate parts: the cockpit, the body, the tail, and the wings. That aside, the skeleton where you lay the groundwork for your creation. That's a lone thing. Tip number 8. Always keep track of your resources. Never start a build without checking your resources, because it will really disappoint you to have to discard the build after what you have already done. Tip number 9. Keep in mind the stability of the bricks and how strong the bond between the entire creations are. In other words, always make sure your creations don't fall apart just by holding it. Use supports left, right, and center to avoid having anything to break accidentally. The 10th and final tip is to always keep track of the color scheme of your creation. You never want to end up with a weird rainbow accidentally, but at the same time, try to be creative in your design. As you can see, the model on screen is all black. However, I have added hints of gray, blue, and red because I didn't have the same parts I had in the computer build. This includes changing the color of your creation. Adding interesting colors may make or break the look of your build. And that concludes my tips for making a successful engineering project. The rest of the beauty of your design just depends on how much you practice with it and how much persistence, strong spirit, and hard work you have. Thanks for listening to my take on engineering.